Question is, what is this Kurdistan thing? Who are these separatists? Who is funding them? Because it seems like you're just basically making insurgencies in four countries. It seems what it seems to be. You want an impossible goal, and if you want a constant insurgency in these four countries, well, you push for this Kurdistan thing. I don't understand it too well. I'm sure it has a longer history than what I'm putting into it. I'm just looking at the practical effect it's having now. Because if these it's in the corner basically of four nations, right, or something like that. It covers four nations. Now, if what you're trying to do in with Hamas and Hezbollah is Iraq is like you're trying to have these enclaves of separatists or for whatever reason, religious or whatever, insurgencies that get to push their way into local governments. That's the only way I see them as now. I see them as like insurgent force that's probably outside supported and funded, but also has its own motivations. But I'm sure you and other people in the chat could give me a deeper perspective and knowledge on what is this whole Kurdistan thing.
Yeah, so Kurdistan is basically a region, as you mentioned, um, in four different countries. It's not a country, okay, and it will never be a country. But it is a region. It used to be all part of Iran, the Iranian Empire, and that's why from these four countries, only the ones who are in Iran feel at home, right? So we have the part that is in Turkey, the part that is in Iraq, there's a part that is in Syria, and the part that is in Iran. So when it comes to the separatists, I kind of understand the separatists in Turkey and Iraq and Syria. I don't appreciate them, at all. And I also want to be respectful to people to patriots in Turkey, Iraq, and Syria. I know, I mean, it's difficult. I mean, Turkey is actually a lot more understandable. Understandable. Turkey is like a more natural country than Iraq and Syria. Syria is like a Frankenstein monster of a country to hold together. Iraq is also very separated. So the national identity in these countries are very weak, especially in Syria and Iraq, right? So Kurdish Iraqis they see themselves as Kurdish first, Iraqi second. Kurdish people in Syria see themselves as Kurdish first, Syrian second. But Kurdish people in Iran see themselves as Iranian first and Kurdish second, because there's a strong national identity in Iran, and they're mostly, very patriotic. And it does make sense because given that all of this used to be part of, the Iranian Empire, the Kurdish Iranians feel very Iranian because they're right at home. But the other ones don't. But even though I kind of understand the other ones and why they don't feel at home, but it's still very, very much against their separatist movement for two reasons. First of all, as a country that wants our border integrity to be respected, one way to do that is to respect the border integrity of other countries. Um, and second of all, because the Free Kurdistan movement includes the idea of making parts of Iran into Kurdistan as a country. Like there is no like the Kurdish separatists in Turkey, Iraq, and Syria. If you look at the map of Kurdistan that they have in mind, it includes parts of Kurdistan, Iran, which goes against not just what the Iranian people want, but also what the vast majority of Kurdish Iranians what they want, right? So the Kurdish Iranians themselves would stand against any separatist that would dare challenge the border integrity of Iran. So, but by the way, the Free Kurdistan movement is very similar to the Free Palestine movement, given how delusional it is. Palestine has never been a country and should never be a country, and Kurdistan has never been a country and should never be a country as well. Um, some people try to compare the aspiration for a free Kurdistan to what Israel did. Israel, they said like, hey, we all support Israel, having their country coming out and basically making their modern nation state in the Middle East. The Kurdish people, why can't they do that? Well, that's a false analogy. First of all, Israel was a thing. Kurdistan has never been a thing. Second of all, the modern nation state of Israel was created without challenging any country's border integrity. Before Israel, before Israel as a modern nation state, that area belonged to the Ottoman Empire. And last time I checked, there is no Ottoman Empire anymore. With the fall of the Ottoman Empire, that territory belonged to no political entity. So when the Jews went into that area, they weren't challenging any country's national borders, and they didn't take anyone's private property. They either bought people's private property, but mostly they settled in areas where nobody else was settling. The only time they got other people's private property without either purchasing it or any other way is when the Arab countries and Arab people in that area attacked the Jews, and the Jews, in the process of defending themselves, managed to take some of that land, and those Arabs ran away themselves because of a war that they started. Free Kurdistan as a country requires a war against four different nations and their people. It will be decades and decades of bloodbath in the region, and it's important for Israelis to also recognize how bad for Israel this is, because, and I'm so glad that in Israel we have now this shift, because we used to have more support for Kurdish separatist movement instead of the patriotic Iranians that want to free their country and make a strong Iran that is an ally of Israel. Some Israelis support Kurdish separatist movement, which is not anti-Islamic Republic; it's anti-Iran. The Kurdish separatist movements are anti-Iran, not anti the Islamic Republic, and that is bad for Israel in two main ways. One, the best thing for Israel's stability is for them to have Iran become a strong a nation state that is an ally of Israel, that is working with Israel. It's good for Israel's economy, for Iran to grow economically and become a trading partner with them. They exchange culture, they exchange tourists, they trade with each other, and also they will cooperate in secure because they share the same enemies. Secular Iran will have the same enemies in Hezbollah and Hamas that Israel has. So there's a lot of room for collaboration, intelligence sharing. The stronger Iran becomes, the better that's going to be for stability in the region and for Israel. You can see right before the Islamic Republic, the region was a lot more stable during the Shah's time. A lot the place, Iran was a force that provided more stability to the region, and all of the chaos, a lot of the chaos that is now being supported by the Islamic Republic started because of the fall of the Islamic Republic, right? So that's that, and that's and what. So if Israelis are choosing between supporting Iranian patriots that are interested in Iran in one piece and stronger, that's one reason why they should go for that rather than these separatists, which are much fewer in number and enemies of the Iranian people. Supporting the Kurdish separatists challenges the very valuable bond that has been created between the Iranian people and the Israelis, because for the Iranian people, nothing is more sacred than their soil, and I think Israelis relate to that. I think the main one of the main people in the world that could understand that are Israeli people, and that's why anybody who supports the people who want to challenge the border integrity of Iran, the Iranian people will be against them. So it's a it's important for more Israelis to understand how damaging that would be. But that's the main one reason. The second reason why supporting the Free Kurdistan movement is a bad idea, especially also given that how much Iranian people are supporting Israel against the so-called Free Palestine movement. Then it doesn't. So that's one thing I want Israelis to keep in mind, that Iranian people have chose Israel against the Free Palestine movement. So I encourage Israelis to also support Iranians against the so-called Free Kurdistan movement. But the main reasons why Israelis should be um, not interested in supporting the Free Kurdistan separatist movement is because the challenging the borders of four different countries in the neighborhood that Israel is will add so much. Is You might think temporarily, like if you think short term, you think like, okay, this is going to hurt our enemies, like Turkey or the Islamic Republic, so it might be a good thing. And short term, it might be a good thing. Long term, the collapse, the internal struggle in the region will become a great hub, a great incubator for terrorism, right? So the more Israel, in my opinion, Israel is the most peace loving country in the world. The reason for that is because it's surrounded by so much threats that chaos is a threat to the survival of Israel. And that's why Israel prefers stability over chaos. People think that Israel is a warmongering country. That has never been the case. If you look at it historically, every single war that Israel has participated in has started by its enemies, and Israel has always responded to attacks. Israel has never ever started a war. And Israel is not interested in chaos. Israel is interested in stability. If it neutralizes its enemies, it's for the sake of peace and stability, not for the sake of war. And Israel understands that chaos causes more room for terrorists to find areas where they could create terrorist factories, right? So you can see that groups like ISIS always go to areas where you have failed states and you have instability, because that's the best place to train, grow, and take advantage of the poverty there to recruit more people. So if you support a movement that is challenging the border integrities of four countries, if that movement is ever successful, the chaos and bloodbath that results from that will create the best source for recruiting and training people to continue doing many other operations like October 7th. So I don't, Monkey, I don't know if I answered your question or not. I think I went off track a little bit. But what do you think? Did I answer you?
I think you covered almost everything. I have like two little things that maybe you can give me some light on. Now, like before and now, like who is funding these people? Where does their money come from? I know that in the old times, Savak was kind of fighting these people because they were getting some money from the Soviets. I did a little digging into it, not a lot, but it was a long time ago. And I think that they're being funded by outside actors that want to influence the region. And I also don't know what their belief system is. Are they Islamic? Do they believe a sect of Islam? Is it Shia? I have no idea what they believe. Is it because I know there's various forms, different sects, so I don't know if they're Shia, Sunni, or some other thing.
Okay, so the Kurdish people in general. So first of all, it's very important to clarify, especially when we're talking about Iranian Kurds. The vast majority of Iranian Kurds are patriotic Iranians who support the border integrity of Iran, and their deal is completely different from the minority separatist groups, right? It might be a different story in those three other countries. I'm talking about Iranian Kurds, right? So if we're talking about the separatists, so Kurdish people in general are very varied in their beliefs, um, because Kurd is an ethnicity, it's not a ideology. So just like other ethnicities, people belonging to that ethnicity have a diverse set of views, right? In the around the Middle East, the main views, if I'm not mistaken, is Sunni Islam, Shia Islam, and communism, and also just non-religious, not communist, and non-religious. Maybe secular. So maybe mostly those four, right? When it comes to the separatists, uh, there a lot of them are communists or communist leaning. Where do they get their funding? It depends. Um, so it depends on which country we're talking about. Um, the Iraqi ones, the Kurdish Iraqis, their region has a lot of oil, and their area has autonomy, and they get to keep a lot of that oil revenue. I'm not sure much about in Turkey and Syria. I know the Kurdish separatists, the Iranian Kurdish separatist movement, get some foreign support. Some is varied where they get that foreign support. Historically, sometimes they have been supported by Israel. Um, sometimes they get a lot of times they get supported by Kurdish groups in Iraq. Um, they also sometimes do get supported by the Islamic Republic itself. So here's an interesting part. Why would the Kurdish separatists, Iranian Kurdish separatists, get supported by the Islamic Republic? And this has been historically proven, by the way. The reason why the Kurdish separatists get supported by the Islamic Republic is because the Islamic Republic knows that the Iranian people, the most important thing for the Iranian people is their border integrity. And also, the Islamic Republic knows that it doesn't have much support inside Iran. So the propaganda that the Islamic Republic goes with is to use the threat of the separatists as a way for Iranians not to want to do regime change, because it tries to spread the narrative that it uses the separatist groups as a boogeyman to suggest that if you try to bring me down, like topple the government, there will be chaos, and your this Iran that you care about so much will be torn into so many different pieces, right? So the Islamic Republic is basically taking Iran as hostage because they know the Iranian people care about their soil so much. The Islamic Republic sometimes tries to increase the threat of the separatists as a way for the Iranian people to not to think that at least the Islamic Republic is holding them back, and let's keep supporting the Islamic Republic, because without them, the separatist movement might come and tear apart our dear Iran, right? So that's what the Islamic Republic tries to do, uses them sometimes as a boogeyman to scare the Iranian people away from toppling the regime. Does that answer your question?
Yes, I think that helps a lot. I think some other people were going to comment on this. If anything, I'd like to go last and see if I can have a Walmart American take of it.
Yes, so faithful disciple put the two.
Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, I think Armin, have we kind of identified that the Kurdish group that has invaded there into the north and is attacking up there, they're communists, correct? So if that's so, again, this is just kind of a working hypothesis, and a possible source might be Neville Royce Singham. He is has been a major pain in the side right now for America. So he is a former tech billionaire, made his money in the tech industry, and then he has moved to China, and so he has got his money there, and he is a committed communist, and his name has come up again and again. So people have kind of looked at the anti-ICE riots that have been going on in America and going, what in the world is going on here? Well, his name and his NGOs, that appears to be where a good funding source for where that's coming from. So I submit that might be a possible source, given that a lot of oil is going to China anyway. Just a thought. Don't know, but I just kind of throw that out there for discussion.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's possible. I wouldn't know about it. Um, by the way, I forgot to mention, Mikey, one source of support for sometimes these groups is the United States. They have been providing their military aid, weapon, and training, especially against ISIS. So that's a lot of their. They did get support from the United States, and the peak of that was when ISIS was a big deal.
All right. I looked a little bit over here online. It says that there is Chinese Kurdish. They have ties. They have roots in the early PUK contacts. That's all I seen from there. And Western NGO provides significant humanitarian develop and civil society aid, but we know that sometimes turns into other things. So this NGO angle seems to be pretty strong.
So in regards to the names, right? So we have the separatist groups in all of these 4 countries have different names, right? So the separatist Kurdish groups in Turkey are called the PKK. The separatist groups in Syria are called the YPG and the SDF, the Syrian Democratic Forces. The 2 main parties of Kurdish separatist groups in Iran are the PDKI and the Komole party, and the Kurdish separatists in Iraq, the Peshmerga group. So each one of these countries' separatist groups has different names, but they're connected.
I think that covers the doubts I had. I think it's an interesting conversation, an interesting topic to look into.
My name is Armin Navabi. I'm an Iranian political analyst with decades of experience fighting the Islamic regime inside and outside of Iran. Make sure you follow me for more, and also make sure you join our discussion group. I'm there almost every single day. Come talk to me there and the rest of the people there in our group calls. It's a great place to meet and talk to people who like talking about politics. The link is in the description and or in the bio. You could also get there by scanning the QR code on the screen. See you there.